Okay. Once again, thank you very much for joining today's lesson, lesson planning and assessment. Okay, it's a sharing session on how we plan our lessons and also some of the things we have to take notes when we are setting our assessment. Okay, so in the previous lesson, if you remember, in the previous lesson, we looked at classroom management. Okay, so I've shared with you some of the things that we have to take notes on how to make the class comfortable for everyone. Okay, so that we can conduct our activities without disruption or less disruption. Okay, so today we're going to look at the planning part. Okay, so no point we know how to set the classroom. Okay, but we are not ready for the class. Okay, because if you look at last week's lesson, okay, one of the things that we need to do is actually we have to make sure we are well prepared. Okay, well prepared in terms of the lesson plan. Okay, what kind of activities we want to do with the students. Okay, so we only can have those kind of activities once we are well aware of what is our objective of the day. Okay, the outcome of the day. Okay, so that will be the things that we're going to look at. Okay, at the first half. Okay, then second half, we're going to look at the assessment. Okay, so you guys ready? We can start now. Okay, so before I jump into the objective, let's look at these fun facts. All right, so attention span. Okay, so apparently there's an attention span research done by Microsoft in the past. Okay, so you can see over here in 2000, year 2000, okay, attention span is 12 seconds. All right, and 15 years later, it dropped to 8 seconds. All right, so can you guys guess what will be the attention span for goldfish? Okay, can you guess? Just type in the chat box there. So goldfish, okay, is well known for their short attention span. Okay, so if we're comparing human, okay, with this goldfish, so what do you think? Okay, so we have 1 second, 3 second, half second. That is very short. All right, okay. All right, so 3 second. Right, so we still believe no, we have better attention compared to the goldfish. Right, let's review the answer. 9 seconds. Yeah, 9 seconds. So our we can say like now it's 2025, another 10 years later, we can expect the attention span will be less than 8 seconds for human. Okay, I won't say for kids because I think for us it's the same thing as well. This is because of our social media habits. Okay, so if you notice, like those with small kids especially, once they start to scroll the shorts or the TikTok, okay, that's where they develop the habits of shorter attention span. Okay, so our kids, our students, they all also very much exposed to this social media. They consume it every day. So they develop the habits of scrolling very fast. They won't put their attention in one object or for very long. Okay, after a while, they start to get bored very fast. They want new excitement, so they'll scroll and scroll. All right, so we can expect this attention span become shorter and shorter. So this will affect our activities in the class. Okay, so for example, like now, okay, the kind of lecture mode I have with you guys, okay, is basically I thought you listened. So if you have this kind of online class with our students, okay, I can guarantee you 100%, okay, they will have their video, the camera off, and then when you are talking out there, they'll be playing games somewhere, or they'll be doing something else. Okay, they won't pay attention. Then they will ask you again. They'll ask you questions that you already explained earlier. Then from there, you know already, okay, they are actually not paying attention. Okay, so this is one thing that we have to take notes. Okay, we have to acknowledge that attention span is an issue. So in our class, we have to make sure we try our best to make sure the class is always have full engagement with students. Okay, we give chance for the students to do certain things so that there will be their focus will be on the class, okay, rather than somewhere else. Okay, so this is attention span. The second fun fact over here is about forgetting curves. Okay, so we always have students after 1 or 2 days, when we try to test them again, they say they don't remember, or they'll ask you the questions again 2 days later. All right, so apparently we have this, what we call as forgetting curves. Okay, research done on this part. So according to this the research. Okay, so we after 1 hour, okay, after 1 hour, we will forget almost 50%. Okay, after 1 hour, we'll forget almost 50%. After that, 1 day later, 70% will disappear. And after 1 week, if there's no revision, okay, after 1 week, if there's no revision, 90% will disappear. Okay, 90% of the knowledge will disappear. Okay, that's why we always tell our students, you go back, you revise, right? Or in our class, before the test, before the exam, we do some kind of reinforcement, okay, so that they can recall back the memory. Okay, so this is another fact that we have to acknowledge, that whatever we taught in the class, maybe they successfully attain the knowledge on that day, but if they don't do anything with that knowledge, it will disappear. All right, so yeah, these are the two things that we have to take notes. All right, yeah, anything you want to comment on this? Okay, you all agree? Okay, you all agree, yeah? Like those who have experience, you will notice that, yeah, we've seen this in the class, okay, all the time. All right, so let's look at today's objectives of today's session. So we are looking at important components in lesson planning and assessment, identify the documents required in lesson planning and assessment, use suitable verbs in learning outcomes, create lesson based on learning outcomes, apply modified GETNI events of instruction, create quality assessment and marking rubric, entering data in OBE form and CAMU, and lastly, identify academic misconduct. Okay, so let's start with the lesson plan. Okay, so I believe we all are very familiar with this saying, if you fail to plan, you are planning to fail. Okay, that is very true. Okay, every time when we observe a class, okay, those experienced lecturer, when they give the lecture, we can see like, flawless. Okay, flawless. Even the jokes, okay, everything they put in the correct place and things like that. Okay, so all those things are actually planned. Okay, with experience, with practice, they plan it well, so the class goes on smoothly. Okay, so what we need to do, all right. So first, okay, effective learning. Okay, key factors leading to effective learning. So in the previous lesson, we looked at the effective teacher, effective classroom management. So now we look at effective learning. Okay, factors for effective learning. First is lesson clarity. Okay, so when we plan and conduct our lesson, make sure it is logical, step by step, audible, and distraction-free. Okay, so that's why the classroom management is very important. Okay, so that we can make sure that the classroom can focus on the lesson. That's a distraction-free. Okay. Audible, that is your voice, how you project your voice to the students, okay, by looking at them instead of looking somewhere else. All right. Logical, step by step. This is your content delivery, okay, how you start, okay, how you continue, and how you end your lesson. Okay, so if things are easy to follow, then the students they can pay more attention to you because they know they can follow the flow. Okay, once they lost the flow, that is where they will lose the interest. All right. Okay, second is the instructional variety. Okay, using a variety of instructional materials, teaching strategies, and types of feedback. So instructional materials over here will be the type of materials you use. For example, it can be just project your PowerPoint slides. You can put in a bit of element of games inside there. Then you change to Q&A sessions. Means you make the pace difference. Okay, you can ask them to take out papers to write some answers. Okay, discuss with each others, or if you need to play videos, you play videos, you need to show models, you need to hands-on to show them demonstration, you do that. Okay, so that is instructional materials. Okay, any things that can make the teaching and learning more, what do you call that, easily to understand by the students. Okay, task orientation. Clear objectives and activities to maximize classroom time. So in class, okay, in order for the students not to fall asleep, we have to make sure we always let them do something. Okay, after a short explanation, we let them try something, and then we continue again with the lesson. Then we let them do something. Okay, so the task is always related back to what we just discussed earlier. All right, so that they have something to do, and therefore they can always keep engaging in the class. Okay, students' engagement, high interaction with students regarding the contents, okay, reduces distraction. This is related to the first, the earlier two key factors there. Okay, so when we have variety, teaching material, teaching strategy, and we make it as task-oriented, the students' engagement will be very high. Okay, and because of that, they can capture, okay, all the information that we deliver in the class. Okay, so theoretically, if we have high students engagement, okay, we should have high success rates. Okay, so high success rates increases students' self-esteem and motivates them to excel in the subject. Okay, so after every lesson, we always check on their understanding. Okay, so if they can answer questions that we pose to them confidently, then they will look forward to the next class. Okay, so that's why in a class, we have to make sure when we pose questions to the students, we have to start from low level and slowly increase the difficulties. Okay, so if we straight away start with very difficult questions, they all fail to answer, then they'll get demotivated. All right, so we have to always, when we want to increase their self-esteem, we have to start with something that they can do. Okay, so after that, we challenge them slowly. All right, so these are the 5 factors for effective learning. Okay, so how to get to this part here? So let's look at what we need to do to get to this effective learning. Okay, so first is to plan a meaningful course outline. Okay, so I believe you all should already have this. Now we're already like week 6 already. Okay, so the first thing you need to do all the time before we start the semester is to create the course outline, right? So course outline will tell us the contents for the whole semester. Okay. It's a very important piece of document for us and for the students because this is where we can see the overview of the coverage, and we can also plan the replacement classes if our class falls on any public holidays or if there's any extra activities there. Okay, and we can plan when to have the assessment as well, the continuous assessment. And I believe your schools practice the same things where we have to upload the course outline onto either Kamu or the Teams for the students to access. Okay, so if you've not yet done that, make sure you have the course outline available for the students to view. Okay, it's not a top secret piece of document. Okay, course outline we're supposed to show to students the very first day itself. Okay, so that the students they know what they sign up for. Okay, they know what they sign up for, how many chapters, what are the coverage, what are the assessment, and when are these assessment, things like that. It's like a earlier planning, okay, for them to expect what to do, okay, throughout the semester. Okay, yeah. So if you're not yet share this with students, hopefully you share your course outline with the students. Okay, of course, not with the some what do you call that classified documents there. Okay, basically just the dates of the classes. No, later I will show you that part. Okay. So the contents of the course outline mostly is from the COPA table 4. Okay, we can get information from there. So let's see. Okay, so this is a typical course outline, how it looks like. So we have the weeks, the topics, class schedule, CLO mapping, planned activities, and remarks. So before the start of semester, we should be able to come up with the proper course outline already. So weeks, this one we refer to academic calendar, how many weeks for that semester. And then we have the topics, subtopic, and the CLO mapping. This information we can get from COPA document, table 4. And then from the timetable, we can put up the class schedule, okay? Whether it's 1 hour, 2 hours, falls on which day. For the planned activities, you can see over here, I have brackets and then I have numbers there, 2111. Those are the hours, okay, for that particular activity. It is advisable to put, but if you don't have this, it's fine. So basically, these hours here should tally with the COPA document. Okay, this is to make sure that we follow the COPA documents so that in the future, when there's audit, then we know our hours are actually sufficient, okay, based on the COPA documents. Okay, continue. The remarks over here, what to put in the remarks. Okay, what to put in the remarks. So the first thing we put is, of course, the public holidays or events that we already know the dates. Okay, we put it here under remarks so that we can check whether these public holidays or events clash with our session. Okay, if yes, then we have to plan for replacement classes. Okay, so that's why we have to plan everything in advance. Okay, continue from here. Then for the activities, it's not always lecture tutorial. Okay, it depends on that particular session. If it is tutorial, it's tutorial. If it is practical, we put it as practical. Okay, it depends on what we want to do on that day. Then assessment. it's good we include the assessment inside there so that we can share with students when expected, which week will be the test or quiz or exam, okay, and what will be the weightage. Okay, so it's for us to see and also for the students to see as well. And lastly, of course, on this remarks column here, if we have to put in replacement, additional classes, we records, okay, the dates over here as well. All right, so far, any questions you want to ask? Okay, if no, all right, before that, yeah. Replacement classes, additional classes, you need to fill up documents, okay? You all aware about this? You have to check with your school, right? Because we can't simply just replace class as when we like, okay? Because we have to ensure the school's aware about it, and then they book the venue and slot for us. Okay, and normally if there's any audits, they will cross-check with whether or not we have these documents. Okay, so any replacement class, any additional class must be planned and informed and recorded. And we can always write it later, okay, in the learning the document here. Okay, yeah. So before the class starts, okay, as I mentioned, this piece of documents we have to share with our students, okay, because as you can see, it contains a lot of information even before the class starts, right? So the students, when they look at this, they know what to expect for the next 12 or 14 weeks. Okay, so in the first class itself, before we start to go into our lessons, then we discuss with them, okay, this is the course outline. And then from the first day itself also, we can start to discuss about the replacement class already. Okay, because from these documents, we can tell them, for example, on this particular week, we have public holiday. So this public holiday clash with the class. So based on the timetable you have, can we discuss which dates, which time, or which day, okay, which time you all are free? So that kind of discussion can start on the first day itself. All right, and then also like to find time for the, let's say you have 1 hour quiz planned out, 1 hour quiz or 1 hour midterm exam planned out. You are not sure when you want to put, okay, you don't want to eat into your lesson time, for example. You want to find extra hours to do that assessment. So you can discuss on the first day itself. Okay, you say like, okay, so let's check your timetable, which day, which time you are free. Then everyone can agree on that and we can put it in here. Then after that, the students, they cannot complain, they forgot or they are unaware about this additional time and activities. Okay? All right, so this is how we can use this course outline effectively to plan for the entire semester. Okay, yeah? So first, course outline, entire semester, done already. Now we've moved on. Now we know what we need to cover. We go to the next one, lesson learning outcomes. Okay. We have CLO, course learning outcome. So course learning outcome will be the outcomes after you cover the entire module. Lesson learning outcome is what you plan to deliver for that one particular topics and for that one particular class. Okay, so in this lesson learning outcome, we list out the measurable skills, knowledge, values a students can demonstrate at the end of a lesson. Okay, what we want them to learn. Okay, so this LOs, normally we put it in our slides before we start the class. Okay, like, okay, class, today's class, this is what you're going to learn. Okay, by the end of this lesson, what you're going to learn. Okay, so that the students, they are well informed today's activity, okay, and what they are expected to achieve. Okay, so for us, okay, these learning outcomes, okay, help us to plan how much to cover, okay, what kind of activities to make the delivery works, and what kind of questions I can ask them, or how can I, what kind of appropriate, interesting assessment I can give to them, okay, in the class. So these are the things that we can plan when we have a proper lesson learning outcomes. So when we plan, the lesson learning outcome should be specific, measurable, achievable at the time given, and relevant. Okay, it's the same as sort of like our KPI. Okay, it has to follow the SMARTs. Okay, measurable, specific, achievable. And to plan for learning outcome, Bloom's taxonomy is a good place to start. Okay, because Bloom's taxonomy is quite detailed in terms of the verb. Okay, and we always refer to Bloom's when it comes to cognitive domain. Okay, of course, if your lesson is more to moving, then you can look at the psychomotor domain. Okay, or those that requires affective, we refer to the affective domains. Okay, on what are the levels we expect the students to achieve. But for most programs, most courses that involve theoretical lesson delivery, we always refer back to the Bloom's cognitive domain taxonomy. Okay, Bloom's taxonomy. We start with from the bottom, so that is the lowest. Remember, then understand, going up, apply, analyze, evaluate, and create. Okay, so this will guide us on what we want the students to attain based on their levels. If the students, they are in foundation or diploma level, we want to focus more on the understanding and remember, right? And if the nature of the course is more to hands-on, like the nursing or the culinary arts, okay, so if we need them to demonstrate, show something, then it will cover, analyze, and apply. Okay, how much percentage? All this depends on the nature of your course. Okay, but general rules, if it is foundations or diploma, you have more of the understanding and remember. If it goes up to the degree level, you have more of the analyze and apply. Okay, and you will touch a little bit on the create and evaluate. Okay, and if you move on to a higher level, master or PhD, then the main focus will be on the create and evaluate. Okay, and very little on understanding and remember. Okay, so Bloom's taxonomy here, the levels here, it comes with specific verbs we can use. Okay, like for the remember, we have the repeat, recall. Okay, understanding, we can ask them to explain. Okay, explain, describe, that kind of verbs. Okay, so these verbs will help us to create activities and also help us to cover a proper breadth and depth of the content. Okay, now let's look at examples of the lesson learning outcome. Okay, so this is, we are planning, okay, the lesson learning outcome. Okay, you put it as understand the function of a heart. Is this a proper lesson learning outcome? What do you think? Understand the function of a heart. Anyone? Can share your thoughts? Okay, Jennifer said not complete. Okay, thank you. How about others? Do you think this is okay? All right, so understand the function of a heart. Um, if you see this in your documents, make sure you change it. Okay, so understand. So understand have levels like what we have over here. These are the levels of understanding. Okay, these are the levels of understanding. So when we say understand the function of a heart, what you expect the students to understand? Okay, is it identify the components in the heart or explain the function of the heart? Okay, so if you say understand, we cannot measure. So a proper one should be something like this. Explain the function of a heart. Very straightforward. Okay, there's no doubts on what you expect the students to do. Got it, yeah? So explain the function of heart. Okay, you can answer. Or identify the components of a heart. Also quite clear cut. I just need to identify. Okay, so this is how we should write the LOs, okay, lesson learning outcome. Okay, second example here. Identify and explain the component in the motherboard of a computer. Is this okay? Okay, I have identified, I have explained. It seems that I use all the verbs. So is this suitable? What do you think? Okay. Prema, you mentioned combining two components, confusing, split into two instructions. Okay. Splits. All right. Everyone have the same idea, okay, to split the verbs here. That is correct. All right. So yes, we split it into two so that it's easier to identify what we want the students to learn. Okay, good job. Okay, so identify the components, explain the function. So later on, once we have all this learning outcome, lesson learning outcome, the students, they can use this to self-check, okay, which part we have covered, or would they be managed to answer questions related to this lesson learning outcome? Okay, yeah, so this is just an example, okay, of what we should do so that we can have the very well planned lesson learning outcome. Okay, for example, let's say this is your first time covering a certain module. Okay, you roughly know what are the main topics to cover. You know roughly what are the subtopic to cover. Okay, but you want to know more, like what the students should know from this particular topic. Then you can create something like this, okay, as your reference. So you can see over here, example, the course is chemistry level foundation. The topic, okay, is chemical bonding. Subtopic, covalent bond. Okay, then under this covalent bond, what I have in the contents. So I have the definition, name, the formula, I have dot and cross diagram, molecular shapes, polarity, intermolecular forces. Okay, so I have so many things over there. Okay, so these are the things that I want the students to, I want to cover. Okay, so then I convert those to the LLO, okay, lesson learning outcome. what I expect the students to learn. Okay, so you have to define covalent bonding, name covalent bonding. They have to draw the structure, describe the covalent bond, explain the shapes until identify the type, explain the type. Okay, so you can see with this lesson learning outcome, it gives clarity on what we expect the students to learn. And from here, we can plan out the activities. Okay, besides the what to cover in the class, the lesson parts. Okay, we also can plan out what kind of materials we can use to make the delivery more interesting, more engaging. Okay. Before I move on, anything you like to ask? No, yeah. All right. So the lesson learning outcome here, this one is not in our, is not a part of ISO documents. All right. But it's good if you can prepare your own for your own reference. Okay. So that you can plan your lesson well. Okay. What we need to have as the audit document is the first one I showed you earlier. Okay. The first one. That will be the course outline. Okay, course outline, you need to prepare for the documentation. But for the lesson learning outcome, this is your own documents for you to plan the lesson. Okay, yeah? All right, so let's continue. So we already have the lesson learning outcome. Now we want to plan the contents. Okay, so the LLO will be a very important guides for us to see. Okay, what we want to prepare for the body of the lesson. Okay, the important parts. Okay, so when we plan the contents, it's recommended for us to apply the backward design. Okay, what means by backward design here? Okay, so normally, okay, you just think back on how you prepare your lesson. Okay, do you start from the reference book you have? Then you see, oh no, this reference book say I have to start A, B, C, D, E. Then you put that in your lesson. Okay, so that is what normally people do, right? Like you already plan your lesson learning outcome, then you find a book with those information, okay, or online materials, then you transfer that to your lesson materials. Okay, so that is forward. Okay, means we start from there. We plan the lesson, then we create our activities based on what we the LLO. Okay, so for the backward design, we start from the desired outcome. Okay, identify the desired results. In other words, is what we want the students to know. Okay, what we want the students to know. Okay, in other words, we think about assessment first. Okay, we think about if I give this question to the students, can they answer? Okay, so from that part, we'll come back to this part here, which will be the idea. So like after I completed this particular topic, okay, what will be the big ideas or the important knowledge the students should retain, should know, so that they can answer the question. Okay, so this is the most important thing. For example, this one is referring back to my LOs earlier. So the main big idea or the important knowledge is for them to identify and differentiate type of bonding in a substance based on the data provided. That's the final things, okay, they attain from completing that class. In order to achieve that, then we ask, okay, what they should learn before they can achieve that. So we have to teach them how to name, how to write the formula, how to draw the dot and cross. So this part here will be the knowledge and skills the students should know. Okay, give another example. The big idea. Okay, identify desirable result. The first one, the big idea. Take kitchen for example. Let's say your today's lesson is how to fry omelette. Okay, so the how to fry omelette, that will be the main idea. Okay, how to fry omelette. So you ask yourself, okay, so lesson, fried omelette. So the omelette, that is the final result. So to get there from zero, let's say the students, they never know what is called eggs. They don't know what is wok, what is oil. They don't have this idea. Then it will be impossible for the students to get to the final destination, which is the omelette. So then we ask ourselves, okay, so we already know they need to cook an omelette. So what they should know in order to achieve that? We need to teach them how to select the good eggs, what are the oils, what the flame, what this and that, all the conditions, how to cook, we demonstrate to them. Okay, so this is a part where we build the students' knowledge from A to Z to achieve that final goal. Okay, and in between, when we teach, when we talk, we will have extra informations like fun facts or examples or things like that. So those will be the least important things. We can include those in our lesson, but it shouldn't be emphasized too much. Okay, if we emphasize too much on this good to know information, it will mislead the students to think that, this is important, I need to focus on this. Okay, so the least important, we have to take notes also. Which one is the least important? We can put it in our lesson to make it more fun, but it has to be brief, okay, and don't emphasize too much. Okay, for example, like this one here, we talk about the type of salts. In my lesson, they don't have to know the types of salts. They just need to know the general formula. Okay, but we just, for general knowledge, we tell them, oh, no, we have this different kind of salts. But then that's it. Okay, we don't emphasize too much on this. So important, we know these three things here. Okay, so this is first thing when we plan our contents. Next, determine acceptable evidence. So now we already know what we want them to achieve. Then next is, how do we measure? Okay, how do we measure? So earlier on, we already have the LLO. Explain this, describe this, identify this. So now we have to come up with the mechanism to capture the evidence of learning. All right, so that will be the formative and summative assessment. Okay, we want to see whether or not they can demonstrate what we have informed them about the LOs. Okay. So when we plan the formative assessment, okay, we have to ask these questions. How do I know if the students have achieved the desired results? Okay, so this will be based on the LOs that we set earlier. What are the best assessment tools to collect evidence? Okay, so of course, most of the time, the simplest one will be MCQ, the short questions. Okay, that would be the simplest way to collect the data. Okay, but depends on the nature of the course. Okay, if it requires hands-on demonstration, then that will be the better way to collect the evidence. Okay, so far so good. Can follow, yeah. All right. Okay. So over here, you can see that first, we plan what we want to deliver to students. Then the second step here is assessment. How do we measure the students' achievement of the LOs? Okay, what kind of questions we plan to ask them? Then only the last part, plan the teaching instructions and activities. Okay, so because we already set what we want the students to know and what we want to measure, when we plan our lesson and activities, we will focus on the needs to know. Okay, we always teach them what the students need to know and not what we want to teach. Okay, whatever we want to teach, a lot. Okay, we have a lot of things to share with the students, but are there the things that the students need to know? That is important. Okay, the needs here will be what we have written in our LOs. Okay, so the LOs will make sure we always focus, okay, in our lesson preparation. So since we already know the needs, okay, what the students need to know, so when we plan our materials, make sure we have many materials with us, not only one reference materials. Okay, in some courses, some subject, they have textbook. Yes, textbook everyone should have, but when we develop the content inside there to make it more interesting, we must have the input from other area as well. Okay, we can have more reference books or the online materials and things like that. Okay, to make it more informative. All right, so these are some questions we can ask ourselves, okay, to make sure we are aligned, okay, with the LOs. Okay, what knowledge and skills required to perform in the assessment? The step 2. Okay, step 2, we already plan the assessment. Okay, step 2, we already plan the assessment. So when we develop our activities, we ask ourselves, okay, what knowledge they need to perform in the assessment, what will need to be taught, and how it should be delivered. This will be a methods. Okay, if you need to sing and dance, you sing and dance. And what activities will equip the students with the knowledge and skills? Okay, do they need to hands-on to do the things, do some presentations, quizzes, and things like that. And lastly, materials and resources best to achieve this goal. Okay, if you think they need to do read up before the class, you give them something to read up before the class. Or you think they need to watch a certain videos to understand the content better, let them watch the video. Okay, so all these things we can plan ahead if we have the LOs planned out earlier. All right, so this is what means by the backward design. Okay, yeah, clear, yeah? So for us, most of the time, if we try to look back, okay, we try to look back at our own lesson design. I dare to say 80% we start from step 3 first. We do step 3, then only we will go to step 2. Okay, we always prepare our content, then only we plan our assessment. Am I right? Okay, the proper way is actually you have to plan your assessment first, then only you plan your content. That should be the way. Okay, so yeah, we all are learning. Okay, try these methods in the next semester and try to see for yourself whether it is more effective or not. Okay, but one thing for sure, if you do backward design like this, your teaching will be more focused. Okay, because you know what you need to deliver. Okay, and you will spend more time on preparing the students for the assessment part. Okay. So far, any questions? Okay.
Question, Doctor.
Yes. Why not?
For my kitchen class, sometimes the constraint and limitation is on time. When I start the kitchen class, so which seems that I want to test the short-term assessment there, no time, which is it take time consuming. So I have to test them next week. So regarding the forgetting,
Yes, yes,
just
yes.
not the brain
The
forgetting.
forgetting
So
curve. Yes.
I think start like macam issue that I need to because time really cannot we cannot in like hours, right? In the kitchen, susah nak end of the session at the assessment. So that's why macam mana the things that
All right, good question. So over here later, I will cover that in the assessment part, okay? Because when we talk about assessment, it's not always about official assessment, summative assessment, not necessary, okay? We can have the formative assessment, which we can do anytime, okay? But of course, when you say for the students themselves to prepare for the test, no choice, the students themselves have to do the revision. Okay, but in terms of how we make sure they achieve certain goals in our class, yeah, we can plan out very simple, straightforward formative assessment. Okay, I will cover that later. Yeah. Others, any question? Okay, if you have any questions, you can just write at the chat box there. All right, so I will just proceed. Okay, so now we have lesson planned out. Very good. Okay, we have prepared to go to class already. So now, okay, Prema. Yes.
Yeah, I have a question.
Yes.
I plan an activity. Okay, let's say yesterday I planned an activity in class, asked the students to prepare something like a flipped classroom. And when they turn around and they come and say that you as a lecturer are paid to teach, how do we then conduct that activity?
Okay, so
how, yeah.
All right, understand. So flip classroom. Okay, so that part will be, I would say it is back to the culture. Flip classroom culture is very well known in the West, but not in Malaysia. So like in Asia, especially not Malaysia, but in Asia in general, everyone expect the teacher to teach, okay, and the students to learn. But in the West, I think 20 years, 30 years ago, they already have this flipped classroom mindset already, where the students will prepare the materials and deliver in a class. Okay, so back to your question, Prema. For this kind of things, we need to, it's a culture shock for them. All right, so you should start small. Instead of you ask them to prepare the whole lesson, it should be just like part of the lesson. Okay, it should be part of the lesson so that it's a win-win situation. For them, what they are doing is just an activity, and for you, lecturer, you still deliver bulk of the lesson. Okay, so instead of that, we all just ask them to create for one small part for class discussion, so it won't be too heavy.
I mean, what if even if we ask them to prepare a small part, but the debate then is that, you know, we are just here to listen. So yeah.
Okay, but then if they are just there to listen, the delivery won't be effective anymore. So you can tell them, this is the law class, right? Law class, correct? So you can tell them, as a lawyer, you should develop the skills of, the presentation skills, the fact-finding skills. So all these things should start from the class. So if you can't collect evidence, plan your evidence, and present it properly now, what can we expect you to do in the future? So maybe can give them that kind of examples and demonstration for them to see that this is part of their training. Yeah, because most of the time, the students they can't see beyond the classroom. They just still have that small kids mindset. Oh no, from standard 1 all the way to form 5. That's what I always do, right? Sit at the back, you just teach, I just sit for exam. Okay, but they didn't realize later on when they go to the industry, they start working, they need to do a lot of things. And whatever they practice in the class, this will be the very valuable skills they will need to use in order to excel in their work. Okay, so try that. Okay, every lesson, every modules, we needs to lead them differently. Okay, you try that. Right. Okay, I have one question about students keep using ChatGPT to answer questions after being encouraged to think and discuss among groups. Okay, yeah, ChatGPT, that is something that's everyone talking about. Okay, for the ChatGPT, this part here, it'll be back to your classroom management. Okay, classroom management. If the activity is conducted in the class, all right? So you can always have a rule, you set a rule that, for this activity, you cannot refer to anything. Okay, so it means they have to put down their gadgets, they have to switch off their gadgets and things like that. Okay, set a certain rules so that they cannot refer to the computer or their phone. Okay, in class, you have the power to do that. Okay, but if you say like, oh no, you go out there, you ask them to do bring home activities, then no choice lah, that one. All right, for the bring home activity, what we can do is we can always question them back. Okay, let's say it is just a formative assessment where we don't mark them, then we won't ask them to put in a turn it in. Okay, but we can always collect back their answers, go through their answers, and then in class we can have a short Q&A session. Okay, so from their explanation itself, we know whether they actually just copy and paste or they actually understand the contents and then they write it out. Okay, that's a some of the way we can make the copy paste more unfavorable. Okay, hope I answered the question. Okay. All right, so let's move on. The next part here. Now we already have the lesson plan. Now how we execute, okay, how we execute the plan. So for this part, we refer to the get me events of instructions. For those who have heard the terms before, get me actually has 9 events. Okay, 9 events. But over here, I only put 7 events. Okay, later on, you will see what is missing from that. Okay, so 7 instruction here. Okay, first, we start with gain attention. Then we inform the objectives, recall knowledge, present content, elicit performance, provide feedback, assess performance. Okay, so basically these are the steps that we do in a class. What's missing from this get me events of instruction will be provide learning guidance. Okay, that one is basically over here already absorbed into present content. Okay, and another one is enhance retention and transfer. Okay, that is not covered here. So enhance retention and transfer, that will be after assess performance. Okay, so that two are not inside here. That's why the title here is modified get me. Okay, the original get me has 9. Here only 7. Okay, and this one cover what the activities we do in the classroom. Okay, let's say you have 1 hour class. Okay, how to successfully execute what we have planned earlier. So we start with gaining attention. Okay. So this is the question we ask in this part here. Why do the students need to know about this topic? Okay. So for us, it's like we think like how to build the hype before we start the lesson. Okay, so normally when we walk into a class, the students, they are not ready, right? They'll be talking to each other, things are not prepared. And if we straight away jump into the lesson, that might lose. All right, so this is how we slowly go into the heavy part. So we start with something light, we gain the attention first. Okay, so over here, it can be as simple as ask common questions related to the topic. For example, if you are talking about economics, okay, or business study, certain topics, then you can ask them about the price of a latte for these different brands, okay, to get their attention. Or you can ask them thought-provoking questions. Okay, I think for this one, the law, you might have a lot of these thought-provoking questions. Okay, so you can ask them a simple questions that related relevance to what you want to cover. Okay, like for science, for example, this one here, environments, we ask them, okay, is EV the solution to air pollution? Then let them give their opinion. And then, of course, if you have interesting pictures or facts or diagrams, you can show them that as well, okay, for them to warm up. Okay, for example, like the red cabbage acid-base indicator, okay, when we are talking about the acid-base topic. Okay, so once you manage to gain their attention, then we slowly bring them to what we want to cover. So we tell them the objectives. Okay, this is where the LLO that we planned earlier comes into picture. Okay, so over here we inform them about the lesson learning outcome. Okay, so what the students need to know. Okay, so the LLOs, basically it sounds generic way like this. At the end of the lesson, you should be able to what, and what. Okay, remember something, explain something, sketch something. So we let them know, okay, what they expect to see in the class. Okay, so once we inform them about that, then we stimulate a recall of prior knowledge. Okay, we try to see how to connect whatever they have learned earlier with today's topic. Okay, so this one is important so that we can help them to connect what they have learned in the past and today's lesson. And also from here, we know how much they understand about the previous topic. Okay, it works like revision from the previous class. All right, so we can simply give them pop quiz, review questions, summarizing, okay, questions, okay, for them to recall back what they have learned. So from here, let's say we still sense some misconceptions, then we can take a short time to refresh back. Okay, so that we correct their misconception and then continue with today's lesson. Okay, so stimulate recall here, not only for them to recall back what they learned, it's also for us to check whether or not the students misinterpret something, okay, or they miss out something in their understanding on the previous topics. Okay, so once we done this part here, then we jump into the lesson. Okay, we present the content. So over here, how much to cover? So we already have our LOs, so we follow that, what we planned earlier, we put it here. So when we present the contents over here, we should use real world examples, okay? And in our textbook, for example, okay, textbook, let's say the textbook is UK examples. And if your program is local content, then you have to make some adjustment to that. Okay, use something that the students are familiar with in the contents. Okay, unless like some programs that's like Australian-based program or UK-based program, then no choice. We have to use their example. But if it is a local, homegrown program, try our very best to use local content, okay, so that they can connect, okay, what you teach with what they know beforehand. Okay. Of course, variety over here, the teaching style. Okay, and earlier on, I already mentioned about the materials, the activities. Okay, yeah, try to make variety activities. Okay, so that they can we can have their full engagement throughout the class. And last part here, when we present the content, we have to help them to identify the important things they need to know, okay, so that they can answer the assessment, right? So we have to highlight the important parts. Okay, if you need to circle, you need to color, go ahead. Okay, but we have to inform them. Okay, when we present, which are the important area they have to pay attention. Okay, so once we're done with the presentation over here, then we elicit performance. Okay, so this part here is more to we want them to we want to see how far is their understanding. Okay, whether they understand the things fully or there's some misconception that we can adjust. All right, so what engagement and interesting learning activities will you ask the students to complete to meet their needs experience, okay, for this lesson? Okay. So activity should be brief and non-evaluative. So we can always ask them to get into a group and come up with the main points, okay, what we just presented earlier. Okay. Or is there any supplementary points, okay, and processes they can come up with? Okay. Ask them to summarize, okay. Or it can be as simple as no, we already prepared few questions at the end of our lesson. We ask them to answer these few questions, okay, which are related to what we just presented earlier. Then let them to complete those questions, and then they can discuss with the friends next to them, okay, so that they can process, okay, what we just taught them earlier. And then they present their answer. Okay, either they can present their answer or we give general answer. Okay, that will be on the next step. So once we elicit performance, this will be like, no, we give them questions to do after we completed our lesson. Okay, so once they're done with the questions, then they present their answer and we give feedback, okay, to their answer. Okay, so this feedback is useful, okay, to identify, okay, that their progress, whether or not they understand what we just mentioned earlier, okay, to identify area for improvement and reinforce understanding and or behavior. So the easiest things we can do is we just give correct answers to the entire class. Okay, we ask them to do questions earlier, and then we give the answer, ask them to self-mark, or we ask them to swap with their friends to cross-mark. Okay, or we give the key answers for them to discuss. Okay, if we are referring to, if we have textbooks, okay, we can say, okay, you can refer to this page for the correct answer, let them check, and then we can have a discussion. Okay, provide feedback here. It's not only for the correct answer, but it's also to correct their misconception. Okay, so once everything is okay, they understand where they got it wrong and what is the correct way to answer, then we assess performance. So assess performance over here is to see how will we know the students have achieved the goals of the lesson. Okay, so you see, elicit performance and assess performance are two different things. So the elicit performance over here, after our class, we give them something to do. We will comment on their answer right away, okay, to correct whatever they need to correct. Then for assessment over here, we give the questions for them to do on their own. All right, it can be homework, a simple homework, okay, but we just want them to do on their own, and then we grade them later. Okay, so this will tell us whether or not by the end of the lessons, they actually have mastered what we just taught earlier. Okay. Of course, we don't give them daily tests. Okay, this is like after a few chapters, then we can give them a test to see accumulate knowledge, how much they have secured. Quizzes, this one you can give it to them after the class. Okay, homework and exercise, this will be the common things that we can give them. Okay, give them a few days to do, and then the summits, and then we can mark accordingly. All right, so basically that is this GetMe's event of instruction. Okay, flow we can use in our class. Okay, to make sure we have a full engagement with the students. Okay, this is the time distribution. Okay, let's say you have a 50 minutes lesson. These are some of the suggestion. Okay, how much time roughly we can spend on each section. Okay, of course, this is just what do you call that, reference. Okay, we can adjust this based on the nature of the lesson we want to deliver. Okay, like some lesson, for example, there's no, is something very, very new, there's no prior knowledge. Then we won't have the recall prior knowledge section. Okay, or if let's say you think for the assessing performance, today's very packed, we can save that for the next round. So all these small adjustment we can make, okay, along the way. Okay, but overall, theoretically, these are the 7 steps we should have, okay, in a lesson. Yeah, so just give example. Let's say the topic for the 1 hour topic is about dot and cross diagram. Okay, just for this. So gain attention, show them models of molecules, and then inform them about the LO. So identify components, compounds as covalent, draw correct dot and cross diagram. Then recall prior knowledge. So what we can do? Okay, so identify non-metals, state number of valence electrons, recall formation of a covalent bond. Okay, then present the contents. Okay, so this one will be the bulk of the things. After that, we pose questions, okay, elicit performance, okay, at each category for students to attempt, comment on their answer. And lastly, this will be the homework for them to do, okay, solve the must know concept questions in class, homework to complete and submit before the next class. Okay, so this is an example of the 7 steps for a subtopic or activities we want to do in the class. Okay, so far so good. Yeah. Okay, it sounds like very tedious, all right? Very tedious. But that's what the actual school teachers have to do. Okay, every day before tomorrow's lesson, they actually have to write out the LO they have to do for the next class, the activities and things like that. Okay, so it's a good practice. Okay, it's a good practice. Okay, so day 1 plan. Okay, day 1 plan. So let's now it's already week 6 already. Let's recall back on what you have done on your day 1. So do you have these things in your day 1? If no, then maybe in the next semester, you can try out this planning. Okay, so we don't jump into the lesson straight away. So we want to get to know each other. So we have the ice-breaking session. After that, you introduce your course. Okay, you show them the course outline, briefly explain to them what the course is about. If you need to plan on the replacement class, additional class, this is where you can have those discussions. And then house rule, if you remember from last week's session, we talked about the rules. Okay, so this is the time we explain the rules, the important rules, like for example, the punctual to class, where to access the documents, where to submit documents, all those things. This is where we introduce to them. And since it is day one and everyone is a bit relaxed, if you have some materials prepared for them to access, for them to post, then this is where you can do the trial and error with the students to familiarize with whatever systems you are using. Then once that part done, then we can slowly go into the module, but we start with simple activities. Let's say it is a continuation with what they've done before in high school. Then we can start with activities from the high schools. Okay? If it is something very new, then we can get creative with something that they might have been exposed in their daily life. Okay, so we use those knowledge as activity for them to get to know more about what they sign up for this semester. Okay, so it can be a recall coverage of the course, okay, looking forward for so that they can look forward for the next class. Okay, so the beginner level activities, this one including quizzes, okay, pop quizzes, some fun activities, okay, so that to create the excitement, okay, for the course. If you don't have this one, you straight away jump into the main modules, okay, it might backfire. They say, wow, so difficult. Tomorrow they drop the program, they drop the course already. Okay, so the first day should be something light. At the same time, they learn something, okay, and they can score something. Okay, let's say if over here the beginner level activities, you give them quizzes. Okay, you give them activities. It should be something that achievable. Okay, something achievable so that they know, okay, I can cope, okay, to gain the confidence for the first day. Right, then and end here is the closure. So when we end the class for the first day, yeah, make it effort to give them encouragement and also remind them for the next class. Like, no, see you on Thursday or see you tomorrow. Where's the classroom? Do you know where is it? Go and explore, something like that. Okay, yeah. So basically that's the general day one plan. Okay, so that it creates the sense of the trust and also friendliness to the students. Okay, so over here, any questions? Do you have all this in your first day? Hopefully, yes. If no, no worries. Okay, you can always try to implement this in the next class. Okay, any question? Any question?
So far, so good.
Okay, so if no question, let's take a 10 minutes break. After that, we'll continue with the second session, which will be the assessment. Okay, so now it's 10:24, 10:35 like that. Okay, we meet again 10:35.
Okay.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, break time over. Shall we continue? Jennifer, are you ready? Yeah, all right. Ong,
Okay.
are you there? Right. We have Ong still missing. Okay. Okay, so let's continue. Right, so now let's move on to the second session, which will be the assessments. Okay, so earlier on, okay, we have looked at the first part, lesson planning. Now we look at assessment. For assessment, we have two types, formative and summative assessments. So what's the difference here? Okay, so the general application. Okay, so why we have this assessment? So basically, we want to measure the attainment of the LOs. Okay, the best way to test that or to measure the attainment is by giving them certain kind of tests or assessment. So most of the time, we only think about the written tests. Okay, so because that's the easiest way to gather the data, but that's not the only way. Okay, we can collect the evidence. Okay, it depends on the nature of the assess what you call that, the course. Okay, like if it requires hands-on, it requires presentation, then those will be the assessment. Okay, but over here we still look at the conventional, which will be the paper-based assessment, right? So we have formative and summative. So let's look at formative first. Okay, formative are conducted during or end of a lesson. So as the name suggested, formative, it means it is we test them part by part. Okay, formation. Okay, formative means it's a formation. We test on their knowledge at that time. So it can be in the form of homework, quizzes, practical, presentation, online or group discussion. Oops. Yeah, so these are some of the methods of formative assessment. Okay, you might heard that in terms of formative assessment, it can be as simple as gestures. Like you ask them, like, do you understand? They put like this. Okay, so that is formative assessment, but it is not efficient. You only can, if you ask, do you understand? They say yes. So over there, you only can gauge that they are listening to you. Okay, but whether or not they attain the knowledge that they're supposed to attain, that is quite vague. Okay, because they only can do like this or say yes, they understand. Okay, but how do we measure? All right, so those kind of body gestures, even though they are categorized as formative assessment, but they are not the efficient type. Okay, the efficient type is always something that they have to prove to us, they have to show to us in action or in written. Okay, so that's where we have all these homework, quizzes, and things like that. Like earlier on, Chef Anwar, you mentioned about like in your case, right? So I believe in the nature of your course, you have the practical and you also have theory, correct? Yeah. So if you said formative assessment for theory, I think that one no issue. Okay, you should be able to do that quite straightforward because you just need them to like summarize the steps or list out the points they have to take notes. So that part will be quite straightforward. But when it comes to the practical parts, okay, for the formative assessment, that will be tricky, especially if, let's say, you in the class you ask them to create roasted chicken. Okay, so definitely you show them from A to Z, and then they only have that one attempt to show you again how the roasted chicken looks like. All right, so that final piece of roasted chicken, that you can't say that is a formative assessment because that is their learning. So the best way, let's say you say, okay, there's no time, no way you can have another hour for them to do that. So the things I can think of, maybe you can, in the next class, you can just very quickly ask them verbally, like, no, what do you call that? Let's say in the next class, you have something similar in terms of the skills and the knowledge. Then instead of you tell them, you let them tell you. For example, like you say like roasting chicken, and that's the first day. So the second day, you are teaching them about maybe just example, chicken curry. Okay, so definitely two different things, but both require chicken and both might require certain kind of cutting. So since they learned the cutting in the previous class, then you can do the formative assessment on the cutting on the next class. Okay, if you want them to show you, just to show that they actually already master that. Okay, so you can use that session, the second session, to observe what you have taught earlier on. So that can be a kind of formative assessment. Okay, yeah.
A question, Doctor. Today I learned a lot. So about the Gagness just now, you mentioned about the ACiD performance, where you interrupt the student, or is it considered as formative assessment, the ACiD performance?
ACiD performance is basically is to test how to say, ACiD performance is for them to show that they understand your content. For example, let's say you talk about 5 rules, right? You mention 5 rules, then you explain everything. Then after that, you pose back the questions. Okay, can you summarize rules number 1? Then they tell you their answer. Yeah, so that is ACiD performance. Yeah. Then for the assessment part, it'll be more to maybe you just like summarize all, you ask them to do in class on their own, things like that. ACiD performance still more to there's a room for discussion. Any other question? Okay, if no, then we move on. All right. So formative assessment. All right. So why it is important? Okay, so formative assessment, we can do it at the end of the class, or we can observe this in the previous class as well. All right, so if it's something hands-on things, then we can use our own observation to see whether they achieve those goals that we introduced to them earlier on. If for theoretical class, it'll be quite straightforward, right? We just we pose them several questions. If they manage to answer those questions, then we know they have mastered certain theories that we want them to learn. So why it is important for us to do this formative assessment? So these are the things that we can gather. First, how effective is the lesson delivery? Okay, how effective? So if they can answer at the end of the day, they can answer the questions, means yes, for the informations we deliver, they manage to process and retain. Okay, how much students have learned? Okay, so if we ask them to summarize or we give them one case study, then from there we can tell, oh, do they miss out some points or things like that? And from there itself, we know whether or not we need to reteach or provide more examples or materials for them to study on their own. Okay, so these are three important reasons why we need to have formative assessment. And also, if we know some students are struggling when answering homework or things like that, then we have to think about the intervention. So generally, when we say formative assessment, they do not carry any marks. Okay, it's more for us, to see how well they cope in the class. Okay. So we always say like, no, we have extra session with students, right? Those like struggling students. So how do we identify the struggling students? It'll be from this formative assessment. Okay, we don't wait until after the test one, after midterm, then we say, you have problem. That's too late already. So the earlier we can identify, then the easier for us to help. Okay, so that is formative assessment. Then we have summative. So summative, this is normally what we call as the official assessment, where we give marks. So summative assessment, these are assessment to assess the attainment of the course learning outcome. Okay, the overall learning outcome for the course. So normally we'll combine several chapters or several skills and we test them in a secure environment. Okay, so we grade this kind of assessment. So examples, the simplest one will be final exam, or we have project paper, test, midterm, case study, presentation, and also practical. Okay, so anything that we grade them, we consider this as the summative assessment. Okay, because we test on their certain skills based on the CLO. So this summative assessment provide information on achievement of the CLO, okay, adjustment in teaching methods. Okay, so let's say after the end of the semester or what, then something you can see, oh, the students cannot perform, then maybe you can start to adjust. Okay, and then the assessment methods. Okay, so this one may be like the questions too difficult or what, you can think about it. So normally these kind of things happen after the like after midterm or after final. Okay. Okay. So for summative assessment, okay, for our practice, okay, it should have a proper cover page and assignment brief. Okay. Miss Prema, yes, anything?
Yes, I just wanted to know, assignment goes under summative or formative? Because assignment is not at the end, it is in between, right?
Yes, you are right. So summative, not necessarily must be at the end. It is assessment that you will grade them. So as long as you grade them, it is considered as summative.
Oh.
Yeah. Mhm. Yes.
Which mean in kitchen we have a continuous assessment every time any class. So it's summative lah, not formative, right? It is graded.
It's a graded. So
but
when
the
you
environment is like in class. Like
yes.
at the end. Oh, okay.
Okay, so when you grade them, you have a rubric to grade them, correct? Like you grade them on their knife skill, this skill, that skill. It's a group of skills. So it's considered as summative. Yeah. Formative will be more on like it's part by parts. Okay, for example, like let's say we take let's say besides kitchen, another hands-on things would be like nursing. Okay, nursing. Let's say for example, you say like collect blood collect blood, for example. So that is one small part. And then after they collect blood, for example, collect blood, and then they have to send the blood for processing. So there's a procedure to follow. So if you just test on like, how to collect blood, that is considered as formative. But when you test on the whole process, from collect blood until you send for process, then you analyze, so that can become a summative, where you test them on quite a broader skills.
Should we like standardize among the chef the formative assessment? Like I would do different thing. The other chef will do different thing of formative assessment. Is it? It's at the end of the process, macam latihan lah kan, kita buat latihan at the end
Yes,
kan.
yes.
So it is up to the chef lah, individual, not should
Yes,
be
yeah, shouldn't be standardized.
standardized.
Shouldn't,
Okay.
yeah, shouldn't be standardized. Okay, shouldn't be standardized. For the formative, it's up to individuals. How do you think is best for you to capture or collect evidence on their performance? Yeah, but when you say like for the summative, where you need to check boxes on certain criteria, certain skills, then maybe you have your own rubrics. The rubrics should be standardized. Okay, so yeah, when you listen to what I mentioned, like the style, the summative, formative, sometimes there looks as overlap. That can sound overlap, okay? Especially when you say like, oh no, in summative you have practical, in formative you also have practical. Okay, that might sound the same, all right, and the coverage might be the same as well. But just remember this: when it comes to formative, it is not graded, and therefore we can adjust, we can help the students to improve. But when it comes to summative, it is graded and we can't give them assistance if they are making mistake during the test. Okay, so that is, I think, would be another way to look at the formative and summative. Because formative, the intention is for us to help them, okay, to understand more based on the test we give to them, okay, so that they can perform better in the future. Yeah, all right. Any other question? Okay, if no, then we continue. Okay, so now we have looked at this tool. And as I mentioned over here in today's session, we look on the theoretical based assessment. Okay, so we look at the question paper. So final exam, okay, final exam, what kind of questions we have? Okay, so for paper-based, we have MCQ questions. Do you all still use MCQ questions? Do you have MCQ questions? Yeah, yes, right? Yeah. So MCQ questions, okay, so is commonly used to measure knowledge comprehension and application. The advantage of using this, okay, it covers a wide range of topics and levels. Okay, easy marking, but the disadvantages over here is time consuming. And if you are the one that designed the questions, then your poor design might give hints to the students about the answer, or it can be very misleading, right? So over here, let's look at the structure, MCQ questions. So we have STEM, which will be the question. And then we have one correct answer, and the rest will be distractor. Okay, so this is the body of MCQ question. So it looks simple. Let's look at some poorly designed MCQ question. Okay, you can please type your answer in the chat box. Try to answer the question. Just take a guess, no problem. It will be pressure for Penang people, our Penang colleagues. It's a very famous mural in Penang. Okay, so I have Prema and Ui, A, and then Anwar say A Samad side. Okay, that sounds like, okay, so over here, okay, the correct answer is this one, Ernest. Okay, so over here, if you look at the question, over here is example of non-relevant distractor. So if you look at the question, artists draw the famous kids on bicycle mural in Penang. I don't know, all right? Then because it's MCQ, the first thing you do is you look at the options. Okay, so Ernest, I'm not sure who is this. Then got John Cena, the wrestler. So yeah, if you watch TV or what, then you say, oh, okay, John Cena is an actor. No way he's going to draw. And then you have Cristiano Ronaldo, he's a footballer. Okay, and then you have A. Samad Said. This is our poets. Okay, our poets. So yeah, these three are not relevant to drawing. So the most possible answer is A. So basically just tikam. But you tikam based on your knowledge on the three individuals here. Okay, so yeah, so when we create the options here, they must be very close to each other if you really want to test their knowledge. Okay, like this one, you can tikam. Sure, if you know the B, C, and D, you can guess the A. All right, next question. Take a guess. Don't worry, no pressure here. Okay, which vitamins? Okay, vitamin or vitamins are fat soluble. Okay, so yeah, from the question, I can expect the answers I will get. Okay, so Jennifer A, Ong C, the rest D. Okay, so over here, okay, just review first. The answer is A. And over here, there are two poor design over here. First, if you look at the question, if you overanalyze the question, you will see vitamin and then here in the bracket got S here. So there's a possibility of more than one answer, right? And then you look at the answer options here, you suddenly have single, 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 D here, all of the above. So very high chance you will go for the D. Okay, so the alternative for all of the above will be none of the above. Okay, so it's like normally for students, if they have no idea which is the answer, they'll choose that all above or none of above. Okay, so try to avoid this kind of answer. Okay, if you need to have like something like this, all of the above or what, then at least it'll be another kind of options. Like you give them statements A, B, C, D. Then in your answer, you have things like A, statement 1 and 2, B, statement 3 and 4, that kind of combinations. Okay, don't just put like this and then suddenly you have this all of the above. Then yeah, definitely it will distract them. Okay, yeah, so this is the second example. Let's look at third example. Okay. The concept of financial management is, yeah, take a guess. If you need to tikam, just tikam. Okay, so we have B, D, B, B, B. Okay, so majority B. Okay, so if you look at this one here, I'm not financial experts, but looking at the options here, B is very long, okay, and quite complete. So if you tikam B. So this is a common patterns we see, unequal length and not in the order. So normally, if you have something like extremely long compared to others, students will go for that answer, okay, because it is the odd one. And if let's say your answers, you have no choice, they have different length, normally we will arrange them in order, the short one on top, the longest one at the bottom, okay, so that it looks, it has a pattern there. Okay, like this one is like there's a short, long, short, long. Okay, in terms of design, it's not that pleasant. Okay, yeah, so make sure when you have the answers, if let's say B is the answer, it looks like a proper sentence. A, C, and D should be same length as well. Okay, it cannot be like short, and then the B is the odd one. Okay, something to take note. Okay, last example here. Don't worry if you don't watch the cartoon, you should be able to guess the answer. Just tick only. Okay, it seems that all watch the cartoon, or it is the hints given. Okay, we call it as STEM clue. All right. So if you read the question here, you have water, and then suddenly it says which breathing technique used by water. So definitely it's water. So sometimes, yeah, if the question is badly designed, you can find the clues in the question itself. Okay, so these are four common designs, the poor designs that we might see in our MCQ questions, right? So if you have MCQ questions, you go back and try to have a look again, okay, see whether you need to improve them or not. And normally, those international exam papers, for example, like A-level IGCSE, those are created by experts, professional question designer. You can see their questions always have certain patterns one, and you might want to use their pattern as a reference on how to design a good MCQ questions. Okay, so that's for MCQ question. Tips for application. So sometimes when we say MCQ questions, the first thing they said, answers are given. So it only can measure the first two lower levels of the blooms, right? Identify and also you can't go higher level. How to go to application or analysis, okay, using MCQ. Okay, it actually can be done. Okay, so if you want application questions, then you must have something for them to process. Okay, for example, if you include data, you include graph, you include diagrams, then your questions will be based on those items. Then that will trigger the students to think. Okay, if it requires thinking, and then that will have achieved the application and analysis question. Okay. So, and also the questions, it has to use certain concepts, not straightforward. Okay, for example, if your question is just about how many states in Malaysia, so that is like, no, you just remember or how many states, right? Or if you give them like, for example, let's see, calculation questions, okay, calculation questions. This is not a simple 1 + 1 = what, all right? This one here, Sorry, I use this example because this is very close to me, all right? So over here, as you can see, it is something that you have to analyze the statement first. Okay, you have to analyze the statement, and then it asks you to calculate the gas. So you will need to use formula. So to answer this question successfully, you need to write out the balance formula. From the balance formula, you have to choose a suitable formula to do the calculation. Then only you can find the final answer. Okay, so this kind of questions, the calculation questions that require analysis, this one falls into the application or the analysis question. Okay, or if you give them a map, okay, then you ask them questions related to the map, and they will need to use certain calculation to calculate the distance or what. Yeah, that will be considered as analysis questions as well. Okay. All right, so any question before I move on? Oh, yeah, all right. Okay, so MCQ question. Next will be short answer question or long answer question, or in other words, ACiD. So for short answer, normally we require 1 to few sentences. Okay. So we can easily assess the student's ability using short question because the questions normally using the Bloom's taxonomy verbs. So we can check boxes, okay, on what they have attained. So example like this, identify 2 bodies that regulates solicitors, 2 marks. Okay, marks, small marks, and we require just 1 or 2 sentences for the answer. So we can see or identify, so means we know this is the lowest level, okay, under knowledge. And then we have questions, describe the roles of 3 civil courts. We give them 6 marks. They need to write more, but the questions is asking describe. So if they manage to answer this question, we know they have achieved the understanding part, okay, of the LOs. Okay, like this one, calculate the velocity. So calculation, this one will be application. Okay, using the same technique, but when we teach them, it might be using different examples, okay, to teach them. But in the questions, different scenario, but require the same techniques. So it's application. Okay. For long answer question, so normally it is essay. So this one will need responses, few paragraphs to few pages, depends on the nature. So long answer questions normally test them on the higher order thinking. Okay, the analysis, the synthesis, okay, depends on the level. Example here, okay, with the help of a diagram, assess the effectiveness of government policies which might be used to reduce cost push inflation. Straight away, 20 marks, just 1 sentence. All right, so assess, and then you have diagram. So over here, we test on their evaluation. Okay, or the second question over here. Okay, globalizations, evaluate this statement. So you read the statement, then you evaluate. So this one is also evaluate questions. Okay, so yeah, essay normally to test on the higher levels. Okay, so up until here, any question? Okay, yeah, quite straightforward. Now we look at the steps for planning questions. These are just guides, all right, when we want to plan the questions, okay, what we should think, okay, before we start the questioning. So first, of course, decide the goal and purpose for asking the questions, okay? So earlier on, we already have the LOs, right? We plan out the LOs. Basically, those will be our guides on what kind of questions we can ask students, okay? Because the questions definitely they have to fulfill the levels that we set earlier. Okay, we taught them, let's say we taught them explain, but the question is application doesn't match. All right, so make sure our questions tally with the LOs for the lesson and also the CLO. Okay, make sure they are matching. Choose materials which you consider important as the content for questionings. Do not mislead them by emphasizing less important materials. So this one will go back to what I mentioned earlier, the need to know and the good to know. Okay, earlier on I mentioned like, no, you have like examples, that kind of things. Okay, so don't use those examples to set as a main question. It should be the concept, okay, as the main materials for the question. Okay, it shouldn't be the specific things that you mention in your lesson. And then yes or no question. Okay, so make sure you don't use yes or no questions. If they need to answer yes or no, there should be follow-up questions for them to justify why they answer yes or no. Okay, because sometimes I think in like primary schools or even secondary schools, we used to see they have this false true questions, false or true, false or true, false or true. So they just pick up. Okay, so they cannot justify. So at this level, we should force the students to justify why they choose the answer. Okay, the next part here, prepare, get ready, and refer. Okay, so basically this is for us, okay, we should try our level best to come up with question banks. Okay, for certain for every topic, we must have the few questions, the coverage. Okay, so that when it's time to prepare questions, at least we can choose like, oh no, which one is appropriate for what I've planned in the LO. Okay? In other words, we plan in advance for questions and make sure we have a set of questions so that it's easier for us to use. Okay, so 5, this one here. Another thing, when we create the questions on our own, make sure we phrase the questions so that the task is clear. Example, you look at these two statements here. Okay, the first one, describe types of chemical bonding versus statement number 2, describe 3 main types of chemical bonding. So you can see the difference there. So the first question, describe types of chemical bonding. So this is normally like for us lecturers, when we set the questions, because we know our content very well, we tend to miss out the details. So it says describe types of chemical bonding. So the question, as a students, they might think, do I answer 1 or 2 types? Okay, 2 types, 3 types, no idea. Okay, but if you put it this way, describe 3 main types. So definitely they know they need 3 points there. Okay, so when we set the questions, if we know there are multiple answers, okay, we put our requirement there, okay, for them to use. Then the questions should not contain answer, it can be an answer or suggestions. Okay, avoid implied response questions when you are genuinely seeking opinions. So if it is opinion questions, the questions should be neutral. Okay, we shouldn't have any clues to lead them to certain side, okay, of the answer. For example, here, okay, the first statement here. Don't we all agree EV is the future? Versus, what is your opinion on the future of EV? So the first statement, don't we all agree EV is the future? It's like the setter of the questions lean towards agreeing the EV is the future. So students, if they read this question at one go, a very high chance they'll just give the pros of the EV. They won't think about the disadvantage. They'll just focus on the pro because the question itself already lead towards supporting EV. Okay. Meanwhile, the statement number 2, what is your opinion on the future of EV? It's very general. What is your opinion? So yeah, you will start to think about the pro and cons, everything. Okay, so I think, yeah, this is something that we have to be careful, okay, if we want them to give opinion. And number 7, when we plan the questions, try to anticipate possible students' responses. Yeah, sometimes we want certain answer, okay, from the question. Okay, but when we have to read again and try to think like the students. So if this is how I phrase my questions, will the students come up with this answer? Okay, or if the question is the opinion-based question, so what will be the possible answer given by the students? Okay, so all these things you have to try to anticipate. Okay, so that you can expect certain kind of answers, and you can put this in your answer scheme. Okay, because remember, for the final exams, we have second marker, right? The second marker, they might not think like us. So if we list out the possible answers, possible responses, alternative answers, so at least when the second markers doing the marking, then yeah, they have a more accurate guides to refer to when they answer, when they do the second marking. Then this is another reminders. If your coursework with weightage more than 30%, and also final assessment require moderation. So example, if you have midterm exam, okay, one midterm exam, 30%. So make sure that is moderated. Hopefully you don't have, all right? Everything is cut into small pieces, 10%, 5%, okay? Okay, so we have question. Next is blueprints. This is the documents. Okay. So blueprints, basically, this will tell us how difficult or easy is the paper, or whether or not we set the questions align with the levels of the paper. Okay, so normally, typically it will be something like this. So we list out the questions and the marks, and then we put in the weightage here, make sure it's 100%. And then over here at the bottom, we look at the percentage on the 6 levels here. Okay, we categorize them as low, medium, and high. So in terms of the percentage, what is the appropriate percentage? You can refer to your school. What is the school practice? Okay. If the school say freestyle, then we have this suggested percentage. Okay, for example, like if it is certificate paper, it is mostly low level, means 1 and 2, medium, the analysis part 20 to 40%, and the higher part is 0 to 5. And if your paper is degree level, degree year 3 and year 4, so you can see here the lower level become lesser and more on the analysis parts. Okay, and the higher evaluation part becomes slightly higher as well. Okay, so this table here serves as a guide, right, when you are preparing your exam paper. Again, go back to your school, because some programs, they might have their own standards. Okay, so that will be the first thing you follow. But if there's no standards, it's up to you to prepare, then yeah, this table will be a very good guide on the difficulty levels. Okay, so the next thing is marking scheme and rubric. Okay, quite straightforward. So this document is to guide the examiners while grading the students and also feedback to students on their performance. Okay, when you compare, then they know where they are lacking. So the documents, okay, marking scheme, grading sheets, marking rubrics, they are referring to the same set of documents. It's just that when we say marking scheme, normally the answers are straightforward. Okay, like in mathematics, the more objective kind of questions, then we call that documents as marking sheets or marking scheme. Okay, because they are fixed. If it is about like essay kind of questions, you mark them on certain criteria, then we use rubric. Then we call it as marking rubric. Marking scheme, straightforward. So you have your sample answer. Okay, we expect them to answer in a certain way, and we put in the breakdown of the marks. Let's say the question is 3 marks in total. In your marking scheme, make sure you are very clear which parts the mark will be given. Because don't forget, for the marking scheme, we have to share with the second marker as well. So when they mark, okay, they will know where the marks actually given to the students. Okay, so that's the first. Second, if this is what do you call that? Exam practice. Okay, sometimes we do like exam practice with students in the class. Okay, so it's good to share the mark schemes with the students for the practice, yeah, not the final exam. Okay, for the practice, it's good to share the mark schemes with the students because from there they will know like where they lose the marks and how they can gain the marks. Okay. So there's the marking scheme. The next one is the marking rubrics. Marking scheme, straightforward. Okay, straightforward. Yeah. Marking rubric, I think we all are familiar with this. So we have the criteria parts where we list out what we want to measure. And then we have the standards, okay, how we want to grade them. And also we have the descriptors, okay, the very specific points. How do we categorize the students as poor, excellent, and so on? Okay, so the criteria, as I mentioned, is the characteristics, okay, the properties we want to judge them. Okay. Standards will be the level of performance. Do we use the 4 levels or 5 levels or 3 levels? That one, it depends on the nature. Descriptors, the qualities, okay, for each standards. And same like the mark scheme also, for the rubrics, make sure we share with the students so that they know how to, what to expect from them when they're doing a certain assignment. Okay, this part here is on the constructing a rubric. Okay, so knowledge and skills in assignment design to assess what we want to assess them. Okay, so this one is based to the learning outcome. Okay, what we want to assess them. And from there, we design the criteria. We list out what we want to assess. Okay, so that's the identifying the criteria. And after that, we set the standards and points. Okay, so how do we set the standards? Okay, is it excellence, good, poor, need corrections, or we have the five sets or 4 sets? Okay, and the points, is it single point, 5 point, 10 points, or we give a range? Okay, performance level descriptor. This one we have to be as specific as possible. What to be categorized as good? Okay, how to differentiate between the good and the excellence. Okay. And of course, at the end, we have to test and reflect. Okay. Let's say this is the first time you create the rubric. So after you test with the batch of students, then we have to reflect whether it is a good rubric or not. If it is not, then you have to improve on it and use it on the next round. Yeah, I think this one might be too small to see. So, but typically it will be something like this. Okay. So rubric, in terms of the contents, I won't touch more on this because I believe you all have your own sets of rubrics. Okay, let's say you need to create the rubrics from the thin air. Okay, this is the first time. No one have anything to share with you. You are on your own. Nowadays, you can ask ChatGPT. Okay, they'll give you a very nice rubric, but of course, you have to give a lot of prompts for them to adjust for you. Okay, but that can be a good start. Then from there, you see which one is important, which one is not relevant. Then you adjust on your own. Okay, so done marking everything. Let's say you have created question paper, you have done the marking. Now you have to key in the marks. So now we move on to key in the marks. So if this is your first round, you haven't complete a semester yet, then this is what you need to do at the end of a semester. Okay, so you have to record your marks and enter your marks into the system. So first, we have the OBE form. So you have to set up the OBE form. Okay. So the OBE form, in terms of the assessment, we always refer back to the assessment in the course outline. Okay, so make sure the weightage tally. Okay, in your course outline, you promise people you have this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 assessment. So in your OBE forms, you should have the 5 assessment as well. Okay, with the correct weightage. Okay, and then at the bottom here, this will be the raw marks, okay, for the components. Okay, for each exam, what are the raw marks? Okay, so when we tabulate the form after each assessment, so we put in the raw marks inside here, and the form will automatically generate the total grades and total marks over here. Okay, and then once we've done with the OBE form, then we have to key in the marks into CAMU system. You all have used that system last semester? Hopefully, yes. All right. Yeah, internal programs, definitely you need to use that. All right. So we use the OBE form as our reference when we key in the marks into the CAMU system. Okay, so in terms of the setting up, this one you have to ask your school's exam officer. Okay, so typically it'll be something like this. So you have the continuous assessment. Like in this case, the example is C1, C2, and C3. And then you have a total over here with the grades. So when we key in the marks, okay, so make sure each assessment you key in as 100 marks. So you have to convert to 100. Okay, OBE form, you put in the raw marks into the table, and then the spreadsheet will auto calculate for you the overall. But for CAMU, for the components, you have to key in as 100%, and then you do the calculations to calculate the overall marks and the grades. So over here, this is where we have to make sure the CAMU and OBE tally. So if we check the total marks over here, it should be tally with the total marks over here. Okay, so up until here, any question? Okay, no questions, yeah? So this part here, after you've done all these things, then you go for your school exam board meeting. That's where you all will check whether it is correct, finalized or not. Okay, so yeah, pretty much in terms of the assessment, that is the flow, right? So you create the questions, and then after that, once you assess, you graded them, you put into the system, and then complete. Okay, so from here, we can tell the students whether they pass or fail. Okay, so now let's move to the last part. So what can go wrong in the exam or the assessment? Okay. Academic misconduct. Okay, so academic misconduct, something that we have to take notes. So refer to actions that receivers try to accept or help others in accepting or trying to receive unfair academic advantage. In other words, cheating. Okay, in other words, cheating. So cheating in terms of the coverage, it can be very broad. So you can see over here, plagiarism, collusions, contract cheating, fabrications, the list goes on, okay? Unauthorized materials, impersonations. So anything that is not you coming out with the answer, that is considered as academic misconduct. So for final exam, especially the face-to-face, traditional, conventional final exam, is quite clear-cut in terms of the academic misconduct, right? You identify they have some unauthorized materials, is considered as misconduct. You stop them, and then there's the process for you to do, right? Every time before exams, the exam officer, exam department, they will have the briefing on what to do in the exam hall. Okay, so they will have the rules on what you should do when you catch your students doing some illegal things during the exam. Okay, so in terms of final exam, how to handle the students is quite straightforward. Okay, just refer to the guidelines by exam department. What we need to take notes will be the plagiarism and cheating in the continuous assessment, especially when it involves bring home assessment. Okay, where the students they are not monitored, then they can use whatever methods to come up with the answer. Okay. So plagiarism is the most common issues over here, okay, where they use other people's idea without proper citation. And now even worse, we have ChatGPT that can generate answers from the thin air. So we have to put even more efforts to make sure those are the correct, their own efforts and not plagiarized answer. Okay. So to start with, normally when we read the answers, we sort of can tell whether it is a is a what you call that? Is a genuine answer by them, or it is plagiarized answer or generated by ChatGPT. Okay. For us, the first thing first, we look at the English proficiency. Okay, the levels written. Okay, if we know our students well, then from the standards of English, we can tell whether it is their own work or not. Okay, we couple that with the inconsistency in the formatting. Okay, sometimes the way of writing is like this, suddenly it becomes like that. Okay, there's no consistency there. Okay, and then lacking of citations for facts. Unusual or advanced vocabulary, right? So sometimes they use some tools, okay, to give the synonyms to the words. Okay, sometimes we can, when we read, we know this is something wrong. Okay, and inconsistent in writing style. So these are some of the things that we, by reading their answers, we can roughly know whether it is a genuine piece or not. But of course, for those essays, okay, it is good if we use the turn it in, okay, to check the answers. Okay, turn it in to check the answers. So if the similarity index is more than 20%, then yeah, that's where we have to start to look into it, whether it is a plagiarized work or not. The 20%, that is the standard, okay, percentage. You can check with your school's practice on what is the allowed percentage. Then in terms of examinations, I believe most of us now are doing face-to-face exam, okay? But some courses, they still use online exam. So for online exam, we actually have tools called exam.net. Okay, so this one, we use this to create the online exam and online test. Okay, so if you need to do that, you can try to use this. So for Turnitin and exam.net, okay, you can chat with Mr. Hazim, okay, this from TLC. He will give the access, okay, to the Turnitin and also the exam.net. Okay, for the Penang colleagues, you might want to check with Bak E, okay, on who can give the access to these two apps here. Okay, so you can see, yeah. So hazim.z@uow.edu.my. Okay, so if you have any questions related to the exam.net or turning in, you can just drop an email to Hazim. Okay, so let's say you manage to catch the students or plagiarize. So what will be the actions? So the actions, normally this will be decided by the school, okay? But just to list out the possible actions we can take on plagiarism cases. So it can be warning letter or resubmission of the work, okay, with the cap for the marks, or it can be just fail grades straight away, or it can fail grades to the course itself. Permanent exclusion means kick out from the college. Okay, so that will be the most serious one. Okay, permanent exclusion from university, college, or college. Okay, so this actions here normally depending on how severe is the plagiarism, whether it's the first time or it's the repetitive or things like that. Okay, so normally this one will be decided by the schools. Any question? If no questions, yes. Yeah. Ong, anything? No,
So far, so good.
Okay, thank you. All right, so basically that's the end of today's session. So to recap what I've covered earlier, so in terms of the lesson planning, okay, so always refer to the learning outcomes when planning the lesson, and then always focus on the must-know matters in activity. So the must-know here comes from the learning outcome. Okay, the GETNI 7 events. Okay, this is a good start if you want to find a flow, how to set the flow in your lesson delivery. So plan assessment before the start of a semester. Okay, if possible, yes, do this one first. Okay, always plan for the exam paper, okay, before start of semester. And if your assessment is more than 30%, make sure it is moderated. And lastly, we always remind our students about the severity of the academic misconduct. Okay, so tell them again and again so that they won't make these mistakes. All right, so that's all for today. Thank you for your attention. So I hope you in this sharing session, you learn something and you might want to try it in your next class or next semester.
Okay, yeah. Very informative.
Okay. Anything else you want to share or you want to ask?
All good here.
All good.
Yeah,
So
all good.
let
All good, sir.
All good.
okay.
Yeah, all
All
good.
right. Okay.
All good.
So
Thank you very
yeah.
much for your valuable information.
All
Learned a
right.
lot.
Yeah, we learned a lot. I learned a
Yeah.
lot today.
So anything you can always
Huh?
rewatch back the video. All right. I think the video will be there. Yeah. So it's all about practice. Okay. So you learn something, make sure you try to make small adjustments in your lessons every day. And then by the end of semester, by the end of semester, you will, you can see hopefully you can see the difference in your class delivery and also how the students respond in the class. All right, so thank you very much. And this will be my last class. The next class next week will be with, can't remember, is it with Dr. Alicia or with Jasmine? Yeah.
For last week's session, for last week's session, I have a function, so
Yes.
I missed the last week session. So do I have to wait for another round or recap back?
That part I'm not sure, but if you can, if you're able to access the video, because the video will be available at the Teams there, you can watch that one. And if you already, how to say, inform Hazim about your activities last week, then I think it should be okay. You can always you can always check with Hazim on this.
For me, I also just got an email from for an internal review meeting, AOL internal review meeting. So I think I also cannot attend because they write the attendance is compulsory. No, your kind attendance will be AOL committee must attend. I need to check on this. No. Attendance is compulsory. Sorry, yeah, attendance is
No
compulsory.
problem. No problem. If let's say you have any other functions that clash with the workshop, always write in. Okay, always write in and see what is the response from the TLC side.
Okay, so I will check with my my head first, then
yes.
in my head say have to attend, then I will write in on this.
Okay. Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, so if there's nothing else, then have a nice weekend. Bye.
Bye.